चक्षुरुन्मिलितं तस्मै श्रीगुरवे रवि चन्द्राय राधिकाय तदालय कृष्णाय कृष्णोदाय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुं श्रीरूपानुगप्रभुं प्रजलस्वसंचरणं श्रीगुरुचरणं वन्दे नमः पृष्ठाय भूतले भानुभक्तिं शरणं श्रीकृष्णलीला कथने सदक्षमो ब्रह्मण्यं पुरुषं तं नारायणं तं शेषाय जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्री सदाशिव जय रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री गोपाल भट्टदासन हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे राम First of all, Shastra Lotus feet of our spiritual masters. Tlai Shiva Bhaktivedanta Shri Aing Sai Maharaj Shri Hriday Tlai Shiva Bhaktivedanta Shri Aing Sai Maharaj Shri Hriday and the entire Bhagavad Guru all the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavas present. So before 6:30 is Para. So hopefully everyone has taken and broken the fast. We have another 5 more minutes. So if anyone wishes to do so, they can do so now. So until yesterday, we finished this about discussing this impersonal Brahman. So the impersonal Brahman is the first stage of realization. Means Bhagavan is realized in 3 phases: as his impersonal effulgence, as a localized supersoul, as Paramatma, and as Bhagavan himself. In this case. So yesterday, one devotee, he was asking me that you're saying that the impersonal Brahman effulgence only has this potency Sat, and Paramatma has Sat and Chit. So are you saying that Paramatma does not have Ananda? He was saying. So that was this question, good question he asked, saying like Paramatma only has Sat and Chit, but not Ananda. So here we see that the existence of Paramatma, how can we reconcile the existence of Paramatma? Because when the Jiva first manifested from the clouds in Vishnu, then did Paramatma manifest along with the Jiva? That is the question. The Jiva came, like, technically when you speak of things like the Jiva first came, appeared, you're thinking about past, present and future. But actually the Jiva is always eternal. Although we say that the Jiva came from Vishnu's clans, we cannot estimate the time when he came. But because when we think about all these tattvas, these material considerations, they're bound to come. Like when he appeared, when did he become conditioned, at what point of time did he become conditioned. So if we think of that, then did Paramatma accompany the Jiva then when he first appeared? No, he didn't accompany the Jiva. Only when the Jiva became conditioned, then this existence of Paramatma came forth. Because when the Jiva is serving in the spiritual world, the very basis of Paramatma, the very origin of Paramatma, Bhagavan is directly present before the Jiva. Like if you think of all the Ragatmik associates in Goloka Vrindavan, is Paramatma residing in their hearts? Because for them, we see there's no difference between the body and the soul. The body and the soul are the same. For us, there's difference between the body and the soul. Therefore, we say that the Paramatma, he resides within the heart along with the Jiva, along with the spirit soul. But there is no difference. There, the spirit soul has been like established in his original or her original form. So, where is the question of Paramatma accompanying this spirit soul? Well, there is no such consideration there. So, we see that when the Jiva becomes liberated, then Paramatma also, in one way, he becomes unmanifest. He manifests when the Jiva is conditioned, and when the Jiva becomes liberated, he unmanifests. Because then the Jiva directly goes to the spiritual world. So therefore, there is this potency of Sat and Chit. And Ananda, to some extent, remains unmanifest. It's not fully manifest in Paramatma. Why? Because Paramatma is only the witness of the Jiva's actions. That example is given that 2 birds are sitting on the branch of a tree. One bird is tasting the fruits of the tree, while another bird is only witnessing what the other bird is doing, but it's not tasting the fruits of the tree. Similarly, the body is like the tree, and the two birds are Jivatma and Paramatma. And one of these, that is the Jivatma, is tasting the fruits of his karma, while Paramatma is only witnessing this. Paramatma is not bound.
Paramatma is only functions is to accompany the Jiva.
And witness his actions. And also inspiring to some extent as Chaitya Guru. As the indwelling super soul, he also sometimes inspires the Jiva to follow the proper path. If the Jiva has good sukriti from his previous lives. But actually Paramatma is very impartial. He is Ishwarya. There we see that in the body he is like sitting there as a very impartial witness. He is neither favoring nor like unfavoring the Jiva. As the verse in the Gita, where it is described that Paramatma sitting in the heart of the Jiva. So he is very impartial in that sense. But if the Jiva has good Sanskriti, Sukriti from his previous lives, then he inspires the Jiva to proceed. So this is the role of Paramatma. He is very impartial. So therefore, then in that sense, he is always, it's a question of being manifest or unmanifest. Because we cannot use the words birth and death when we think in terms of spiritual reality. Because birth and death is only for the conditioned soul. But the question of manifesting and unmanifesting, that should be considered in regard. Because we see even like when the Dham, when we cannot see the Dham anymore, then we say the Dham has become unmanifest. Because the Dham has three features: Prakat, Aprakat and Drishyaman. What is Aprakat Dham? Aprakat Dham means Golok Vrindhavan, means the Dham in the spiritual world. That is Aprakat Dham, unmanifest Dham. And then we say Prakat Dham, manifest. Why? Because now, during Krishna's appearance, the Dham also manifested here in this material world. When Krishna descends to this material world during his incarnation, then the Dham also descends along with him. And then when Krishna disappears, then the Dham also disappears from the eyes of the conditioned soul. Then the Dham we see right now is called Drishyaman. Drishyaman means the Dham we see by our eyes. Dham we perceive by our senses. We can touch the touch of the Dham, we can see the Yamuna, we can see all the different Leela studies of the Dham, the pastime places of the Dham. So this is called Drishyaman. So this way there are also different considerations. So here there are some spiritualists who think that the names, form, quality, activities of Bhagavan, they're all temporary. And that Bhagavan, he cannot possibly possess an eternal name, form, qualities. They argue on the basis of evidence from the Shrutis, which emphasize the absence of material attributes in the Supreme. That the absolute truth is beyond the mind and words, that he has no ears, limbs or other bodily parts. So here, like the Shrutis themselves, the scriptures, they state that Bhagavan has no name, he has no form. So therefore, like certain section of Brahmavadis, they put forward this argument that how can you limit Bhagavan to a form? Because they say Bhagavan is all pervading, then how can he have a form? Like they say the air is all pervading. The air can be felt everywhere. But does the air have a form? Rather they say when there's air blowing on the street, then you see many dust particles, they arise along with the air. So this way the air is signified by those particles of dust. But the air itself has no form. So similarly they say in that same case, Bhagavan also has no form. But when he descends, he accepts a form according to the three modes of material nature. But he is not bound by karma. So this is the difference between Ishwar and the Jiva. They say the Jiva is also Brahma and Ishwar is also Brahma. But when the Jiva assumes a material form, then he has his prarabdha karma. But when Bhagavan appears in his form, which is also material, they say he has some karma. He is beyond. This is the philosophy of Shankaracharya's followers. It's very confusing. They say that both are Brahma, but one is bound by karma and the other is not bound by karma. It's very difficult to reconcile that philosophy. Because we see that Vyasadeva in the Vedanta Sutra, he said, Anandamaya Abhyasat. Anandamaya Abhyasat means what? Means that Bhagavan is the very form of Ananda. That it says Vedanta Sutra. So therefore, Shankaracharya, he said, how can he be Anandamaya? Rather, he is only Ananda. Means he is only bliss. He is not the very form of bliss, happiness. Therefore, he said Anandamaya Vyasa. So then Shankaracharya, he said, because Vyasadeva spoke these words, Vyasadeva is at fault. He is mistaken. He is Brahmata. Because how can he be Anandamaya Abhyasa? Anandamaya. He is only Ananda. No? Like we see in the Veda, it said, he is Satyam Jnanam Ananta Swarupa. Means Bhagavan is the embodiment of Satya, truthfulness, Jnana, transcendental knowledge, and Ananda. Satya Jnana Ananda Swarupa. So then they say, how can he be the embodiment? Means if he is the embodiment, means he has a form. And if he has a form, then he is again conditioned by material nature. Because any entity who has a form is conditioned. That is their philosophy. They cannot reconcile that the form of Bhagavan is transcendental to the three modes of material nature. It's not subject, not conditioned by the three modes of material nature. This they cannot understand. So all these arguments Jiva Goswami has put forward in his Sandarbhas, because he knew that Shankaracharya's philosophy is very renowned in India. So he wanted to take these arguments away first. Therefore in Swami Maharaj's Pranam Mantra, what does it say? Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatta Desha Dharini. He especially appeared to uproot this Nirvisheshvad, the Shunyavad, Buddhism, Shankaracharya's philosophy. Because until the area is cleared of all these weeds and all these things, then how can you put the seed of pure bhakti there? No. So first you'll have to clear the area. You'll have to take out all these different weeds, creepers, and make it fertile land. And only then you can put the seed of pure bhakti there. So even Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada, even he spent so many years of his life clearing the jungle of all these different misconceptions. And at the end he said, I wasted so much of my time here in these things. Now I want to focus more on the positive, on the pastimes of Radharani, Krishna and Gopis. Even Gurudev, he said, from the very beginning I didn't focus as much in clearing all these misconceptions. Because he said, my Guru Varga, they've already done so. So why should I again put more of my effort in doing all these things? But then he said, when I came to the West, I realized here also I'll have to do the same thing. I'll have to clear these misconceptions that have entered the hearts of all the people. Because only once their hearts become empty, then you can put the seed of bhakti inside their hearts. How can you play the flute? You see, the flute, only if it's hollow, then you can play on the flute, and the flute will give a nice sound. If the flute is not hollow, then how can you play on the flute? Similarly, if the hearts of the jivas are not empty, only then, if their hearts are empty, only then you can speak something and they will accept. But if their hearts are already full of so many misconceptions, and apasiddhantas and all these things, then how can you speak any harikatha to them? They will not even accept in the first place. Like that example is given that once Param Gurudev, he came to this Chanchura, this temple near Hooghly. So there many different people would come and speak to him the whole day. The whole day, lawyers, government officials, people from all sections of town, they'd come and they'd be speaking to him for many hours. So then Gurudev, he asked Param Gurudev, why do you spend so much time listening to them? Because they're only speaking nonsense the whole time. They're only speaking this, that. But you're still spending so much time. Then Param Gurudev, he said, I have to listen to them. Because this is what they have to offer. And once they've offered themselves, once they've offered all these things that they have to say, once they make their hearts empty, then when I will speak Harikatha, then their hearts will become full of that Katha. So first they'll have to empty their hearts. Then I can fill their hearts with this nectar of Harikatha. So here we see that in this way, our Guru Varga also spent so much time clearing these misconceptions so that the jivas become qualified to accept all these things. So in whatever statements from the Shrutis, where the impersonal aspect of the absolute truth is indicated, in the very same statements, the personal aspect is also mentioned. So here, the Brahmavadis, no, if you call them Mayavadis, they become offended. Once we were doing parikrama, one devotee and me, and they were like some followers of Shankaracharya, they were also doing parikrama. And one of these devotees, he remarked, "Oh, Mayavadis, this, that." They became disturbed after that. Because one of them, he heard this devotee. He said, "Oh, he's calling us Mayavadi, this thing." So no, you cannot even call them Mayavadis. You'll have to call them Brahmavadis. They'll get offended on us. So we'll call them Brahmavadis. Actually, they are Mayavadis. Why do they call them Mayavadis? Because they say everything is Maya. Brahma Satya Jagan Mithya, they say. Mithya means Maya. They say only Brahma is the truth and everything else is Maya. Maya, 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 Maya. Nothing else is there for them. Only Maya. No, there's no like reality, only Maya. Like one Shankaracharya, his mother told him that you go to the garden and you pick some eggplants. Some guests have come to our house, so you go there and you pick some eggplants. There was a garden of eggplants, this brinjal. So then Shankaracharya, he went and he only brought one eggplant from an entire garden of eggplants. Then Shankaracharya's mother said, "What have you done? So many guests have come to our house. I told you to pick some eggplants and you only brought one." And he said, "I only saw one." His mother said, "What are you saying? You only saw one?" And she took him to the garden. There she saw so many eggplants there, like hundreds. And you are saying you only saw one. And Shankaracharya said, "Yes, one. Everything is one." All these eggplants are only one. Then Shankaracharya's mother twisted his ears. Everything is one. Pick more. Then he had to pick more. 10, 15 more, 20. No. So they say for them everything is only one. Everything is only Maya. No matter how much you try to describe to them, they'll only say everything is Maya. Everything is Brahma. You are Brahma, I am Brahma. Therefore, when they address each other, they say Narayana. Oh Narayana, they say. You are also Narayana, I am Narayana. Like this. This is how they address each other. Especially the sannyasis there in Shankaracharya's line. They say Om Namo Narayanaya. They say Om Namo, oh Narayana, I offer my obeisances to you. And the other person, he says Om Namo Narayanaya. Oh Narayana, I also offer my obeisances to you. Like we say Dandavat Pranam, no? We say Hare Krishna, Hare Bol Dandavat. There they say like that. So in their philosophy it is like that. Everything is Maya, everything is Brahma. But still, and they prove their philosophy by quoting from the Shastras. They say in the very Shastras it is stated that Bhagavan is formless, he has no name. So how can you say that he has a form? So here it is said, although the Shrutis state that he does not have a form, it means he doesn't have a mundane material form. He has a transcendental form. He has a spiritual form. No. Angani yasya sakalendriya viddimanti paschanti. There's a shloka from the Brahma Samhita, no? Where we see that through all his other senses he can perform any of the activity. Like we see, when we're offering bhoga to Thakurji, then we don't see Thakurji reaching out and eating from the plate. But still we say that we are accepting his remnants. How is this? We don't see the plate has become empty. So how can we say he's giving us his remnants? Because he is accepting by his eyes. That's the thing. By his eyes, he's accepting these offerings. And his eyes can also perform the same function as his mouth. No. His hands can perform the same function as his mouth. Any of his limbs can perform the function of any other limb. Like Bhagavan's limbs. They're like not different from each other. So therefore, but still we see the personal aspect of Bhagavan is emphasized more. The impersonal aspect is also emphasized, but his personal aspect is also emphasized. For example, the Shruti says that the absolute truth has no hands, no legs, and no eyes. But we understand that he does everything. He travels everywhere and sees everything. The pure understanding of this statement is that he doesn't have material hands, legs, eyes, and so on. Means he doesn't have like hands and legs like we do. No. Our hands and legs are made of flesh and bones, blood, tissues. But his hands and legs are not different from his own swarup. Like even when we think of the deity form of Krishna, there are two considerations. Like some devotees, they think that the deity is not Krishna, but Krishna is residing within the deity. They say. This is one consideration. And another consideration is the devotee thinks that the deity is not different from Krishna himself. No, There are two considerations here. One thing is that Krishna is residing within this deity, and the other is Krishna is the deity himself. So Gurudev says which consideration is more advanced? He says the consideration that the deity is Krishna himself is more advanced than thinking that Krishna is residing within the deity. If you think that he's not different from the deity, then this is more advanced understanding. Because then you have more mamata for his seva. It will be madhurya seva. But if you're thinking he's residing within the deity, then you'll think, oh, he's like Paramatma then. So you'll not have so much mamata. But then if you see that he's the deity himself, then you'll have so much more mamata in your seva. That Bhagavan is directly here, present. So here, his form is transcendental and it is beyond the 24 elements of material nature and it is purely spiritual. By the cultivation of Gyan, it will appear that impersonal Brahman is the supreme truth. So here the subtlety is that Gyan itself is material. Meaning in the material world, whatever knowledge we have is done solely upon material attributes. So whatever knowledge we can acquire in this material world is by our senses. Is by our eyes, by our ears, by all our knowledge acquiring senses. Therefore, since our senses themselves are defective, the senses are not perfect in our present conditioned state. So whatever knowledge we acquire by senses is also defective. It is not transcendental. And on the basis of that knowledge, how can you assert Brahma then? How can you say that Brahma is formless? Therefore, either that principle is material or by applying the process of negation of the material, we conceive of a principle that is the opposite of gross matter. But by this method, one cannot achieve the factual supreme truth. So here, what is the very understanding of the Brahmavadis? Their understanding is only a negative aspect of Bhagavan. Means they're denying his personal aspect because they say his personal form is bound by Maya and they're accepting his impersonal form. And what is this? It is called Vyatirek. Vyatirek means the conclusion which results from which the original theory has been negated. Means the original theory has been rejected. And whatever conclusion has arisen from that rejection is Vyatirek. So in his Bhakti Sandarbha, Jiva Goswami has explained the relative truth that is attained by those who pursue the path of impersonal knowledge. Means in the beginning, the students who are pursuing the path of Gyan, they require sufficient discrimination to comprehend the existence of a transcendental entity beyond the contamination of gross matter. Although the attributes of God, like his name, form, qualities, they are his very nature and they are intrinsically present within that entity, the adherents of the path of Gyan are unable to perceive them. So they say that the Bhaktas say that the Nam Rup Kundalila Bhagavan is not different from Bhagavan himself. But they cannot conceive the Mayavadis. Like why do we chant Bhagavan's name? To realize that Bhagavan is not different from his name, we chant his name. To realize the Shuddha Nam. Or else, why are we repeatedly chanting more and more? To realize that Bhagavan is present in his name. But the Mayavadis, they say no. Say Bhagavan is different from his name. They say right now we have to engage our mind in some sort of sadhana, so therefore we chant his name. And then they say there's no need to even chant his name once you achieve perfection. So this is their understanding. For example, the sun dispels the darkness of light. Although the luminous quality means the shining of the sun is easily understood, the inner and outer workings of the sun planet, the difference that exists between the individual particles of light and the specific distinguishing features of the atomic particles of light are all imperceptible to human eyes. So here Jiva Goswami is saying when we look at the sun, then what do we see? We see one like circular figure. That's what we see by our eyes. But he's saying, if you look even more closely, then you'll see there is the sun planet itself. And within the sun planet, there is a predominating deity of the sun planet. That is Surya Dev. And then there is the rays of the sun. And there's so many particles of dust suspended in the rays of the sun. And there's the orb of the sun. No. So instead there's so many considerations of the sun. The sun has so many features. But when we look by our eyes, we only think of him as one circle. So similarly here, the Brahmavadis, they only think of Krishna as Brahma. But you see, that within that Brahma there are so many classifications. He has his Swarup Shakti, he has his Tatastha Shakti, he has Bhairanga Shakti, Antaranga Shakti. So if we don't have the proper eyes to see, then we will not perceive. But it doesn't mean they don't exist. They exist, but we cannot see. Like if you're flying in a plane from above, and if you look below, you will see like on forest. And what will you see? You will only see trees, you won't see anything. But if you go into the forest, then you will see so many things. You'll see a river, you'll see animals, you'll see people living inside the forest. But when you're in the plane, then you won't realize anything. You just think it's just a forest. Like once, Maharaj Nimi, once Maharaj Vasudev, the father of Krishna, Dwarkadish, he invited Narad Rishi to a yajna. So when Narad Rishi was descending from top, that time, first when they saw Narada, they saw one light descending. So then they were thinking, what is this light? And then gradually they saw like Narada's saffron cloth. And then gradually as he came nearer, then they saw that this is a personality. And then as gradually Narada came even nearer, then they realized this is Narada Rishi himself. So see here, first they thought he was light, then they thought he was something else, some indistinct personality. Then gradually they started realizing that he's like a very distinct personality. So this is the same with Bhagavan. First we see him as formless, then gradually we see him as the all-pervading super soul. And then gradually you realize he's Bhagavan himself. And not just this, then you realize he's Brajendranandan Shyam Sundar himself in his self-same form. This is the topmost conception of his Bhagavata. So in this way it is said that those who view the transcendental entity through the eyes of impersonal knowledge are unable to perceive his divine personal attributes. If, as previously described, one acquires transcendental vision by the mercy of great devotees, one will be able to directly recognize the Lord's personal attributes. Because you can see the four Kumaras, the sons of Brahma, they were also like this. They were thinking that he's impersonal. And one day Narad Rishi, he brought this tulsi that had been offered at the lotus feet of Vishnu, with Chandan. And then he offered that to the four Kumaras. And when the four Kumaras smelled that tulsi, then they realized, oh, what is this? Although we are impersonal Brahmavadis, still the qualities of something greater is attracting us. How can this be possible? We are Aptaram Aptakam. Means all our desires have been fulfilled. We take pleasure in our own selves. Atmaramata. But then how is it that something else greater is attracting us? Then they realized that Bhagavan has a personal form. And he has personal qualities, name, pastimes, everything. Therefore, Atmaramascha Munayo, Nirgante Piyurukama, Gurvantaki Haitavisiddhim, Tambuto Guno Hari. He has all transcendental leelas. This knowledge, otherwise, by realization of the impersonal Brahman, one will only attain the state of merging into that Brahman. So this knowledge is stated in Bhagavad Gita, that Svabhavo Dhyatmam Uchyate, the inherent nature of the living entity is known as the Self. The meanings of the words Svabhava and Adhyatma are as follows. Swa refers to the pure self, Shuddha Atma, and the word Bhav refers to ascertainment. Hence, the ascertainment of the pure living entity as a unique individual, eternally related to the Supreme, is known as Svabhava. So, Svabhava, in other words, in simple words, means one's nature. The nature is called Svabhava. When the Atma is made the principal subject of focus and given the power to act in its proper function, it is known as Adhyatma. So, Adhyatma means the characteristic of the soul. And what is the characteristic of the soul? To serve Krishna. This. Like we see in the Bhagavatam, there is one verse which says, Prakrita Bhavu Atma. Means there, when Krishna was born, Prakrita Bhavu Shishu. There when he was born, he appeared as a Prakrit baby, as an ordinary baby. No? Because when he appeared in his 400 form, then Vasudeva and Devaki, they prayed to him that now you kindly become a baby. Or else Kansa, he might want to kill you. Because they had some Vatsalya Bhava. So then when the Mayavadis read this statement, they're saying, just see here. Sukadeva Goswami has used this Prakrit word. Prakrita Bahu Shishu. Means Prakrita means mundane. So they say, see here, he himself is saying that Bhagavan has accepted a mundane form. But then, Paramgurudev, while refuting this argument of the Brahmavadis, he said if you think of the meaning of this word, Prakrita, according to the Sanskrit dictionary, then you will see Prakrit means one's nature, Swabhav. Means this form of his, as a baby, is his eternal form. For those in Vatsalya Ras, he appears in his eternal form as a baby. Not that he is mundane Prakrit, no. This is his eternal form to those in Vatsalya Ras. So these are very topic considerations. These now for all these things, one will have to spend more time reading, or else it becomes boring after some time. All these things become boring because we like listening to the pastimes of Krishna with the gopis, the Radharani, with the Brajavasis. But all these things you listen more and more, it becomes boring. There's no rasa there, but it's very important. Although it seems boring, it is very important. You should not have any you should not think all these things are unnecessary, because these things are the foundation. Like if you want to protect a river, then you have to form a proper barrier to make sure that no drain water enters the river. Then the river will be pure. But if this drainage is entering, this drain water is entering inside the river, then it will become polluted. Similarly, if you want to practice pure bhakti, then we have to protect this pure bhakti, that is tattva and siddhanta. Or else our bhakti will only become sentimentality. No, it will only be sentiment. It should not have any you should not think that this is unnecessary. The purport of this is that when spiritual knowledge is acquired through the process of negation, neti, the absolute truth, which is transcendental to the illusory material potency, is realized only partially. So here, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying that when one realizes Bhagavan to be the Brahman, means the effulgence, he's saying this understanding is not false. This is true, he's saying. This understanding is all right. Bhagavan is formless, but it is not complete. It is incomplete. It is partial understanding. The variegated aspects of transcendence, which lies much deeper within, is not realized. In other words, his name, form, quality is not being realized. So if one follows this process, if he meets the self-realized Vaishnava, then only he can be protected from the impediment of impersonalism. So if such a Brahmavadi, if he meets a pure devotee, then he will be saved. Or else he will only follow this philosophy, he will never give it up. No. There are so many examples where such Brahmavadis, they met the devotees and they were saved. Even the Guru Ramachandra, Vasishta, he was a Brahmavadi. No, he was a Brahmavadi himself. Then when Bhagavan himself appeared in front of his eyes, Ramachandra, then he realized, oh, what have I've wasted so many years of my life meditating on his impersonal form, and here directly Bhagavan himself has appeared before me. Even Vasishta Rishi, see, then he became a great devotee. This is so many examples are there in the Shastras, of Brahmavadis meeting. Like this is Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. He was also a Brahmavadi. And then when he met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he changed. Prakashananda Saraswati, he was a Brahmavadi. He met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he changed. And we see so many other devotees, they were impersonalists. And they also changed by the mercy of our spiritual master. Can you think of any example? Especially in Guru Varga's lives, we see so many Brahmavadis, they all changed. Sukadeva Goswami also, see. He was also a Brahmavadi. Sukadeva Goswami also. Because he was playing the part of a Brahmavadi. Although he was the parrot of Srimati Radhika, still he was playing the part of a Brahmavadi. Prakashananda, I just said. So Sukadeva Goswami, he was playing the part of a Brahmavadi. No, but then when his father Vyasadeva, he had these hunters recite these verses describing the mercy of Krishna. No, this Aho Bhakiyam Stanaka Kuta. That Krishna was so merciful that all the Putana, who was a Rakshasi, she gave her breast to Krishna. Krishna, he delivered her and he accepted her as his nursemaid, means like a mother. So then Sukadeva Goswami, when he was like a Brahmavadi, then when he heard this, his heart went, saying how merciful Krishna is. Arha Pidam Nataro Vapu, Karnayo Karnikaram, Andram Venu Radaya Sudayam Puran Kaupavante, Indaranyam Samadaram Amanam Pravishardita Kirti. You see, Krishna is so beautiful, he's wearing yellow karnikar flowers on his ears. And when he's entering the forest, he's playing on his flute. So when he heard all these shlokas, then he became a great devotee. But he was already a great devotee, but he was playing the part of a Brahmavadi. Means he was saying that even Brahmavadis are attracted by Krishna. So many other examples also there. Now, not many are coming to mind. Maybe you can remember. In this Param Gurudev's book, Maharaj.Bhakti-tattva-viveka, there he is giving many examples of devotees, of Brahmavadis who become devotees. Because we see in the Gita, it said, Brahmabhuta prasannatma, na sochati na kankshati, sama sarvesu bhuteshu, mat bhaktim labate param. There is said that one who is Brahmabhuta prasannatma means one who is absorbed in this Brahma bhav. Then what happens? At the end, he gets this bhakti. Mat bhaktim labate param. Parama bhakti he achieves. No, at the end. When we see there was one Mayavadi, his name was Madhusudan Saraswati. So this is not Madhusudan Vachaspati. Madhusudan Vachaspati is the disciple of Sarvam Bhattacharya, who was a Siksha Guru of Jiva Goswami. So this is different. Madhusudan Saraswati, he wrote a book called Advait Siddhi. Basically, he wrote this book as a counter argument to some disciples of Madhvacharya. Like one disciple of Madhvacharya, he wrote one book called Mani Manjari. And when he wrote this book, there he explained like Krishna's personal form is topmost. But then Madhusudan Saraswati, he wrote one book called Advait Siddhi, and then he counteracted. And then they again wrote one more book, and then he again wrote one more book. But then he realized, what am I doing? I'm wasting my time here. Then he also realized. Then he said, finally, when he wrote one book, the last words he wrote were, now my mind has been stolen by the thief who's playing on his flute, he said. Now I can no longer meditate on this impersonal Brahmans. My mind has been stolen by the thief who's always playing on his flute. So this is Krishna's transcendental qualities. Who can deny? So therefore, if those who pursue the path of yoga, in the end, arrive only at realization of Paramatma. They cannot attain realization of the Supreme Lord in His ultimate manifestation. So they are yogis. What do the yogis do? They enter into dhyana. They follow this process of Anulom Vilom. Means with every inhalation and exhalation, they meditate on Paramatma. They take a deep breath and they go into trance. And sometimes they don't even exhale. There are such yogis. Don't think that such yogis don't exist. Gurudev said there was one yogi who went into samadhi for 5,000 years. When the Pandavas and Kauravas were fighting each other, this yogi, he went to the Himalayas. He said, I don't want to see this war. So much blood, so much violence. And then after 5,000 years, he came from the Himalayas and then he asked someone, oh, who won this war between the Pandavas and Kauravas? He said. Because I was in Samadhi for 5,000 years. And Gurudev spoke this katha, he's not saying like. He said, who won this war? I want to see. Who won? And everyone was saying, what is he saying? And long locks of them. Even now these yogis are present in the Himalayas. Deep within the Himalayas, where no one can even go, these yogis are still present. Who've been living for thousands of years. Deep within some caves. No one can find them. These yogis are hiding themselves. So even such yogis, although they're meditating on the super soul, Paramatma, they cannot attain realization of his supreme manifestation, that is Bhagavan himself. It is only by bhakti that one can achieve this personality of Bhagavan. Generally, religious principles in this world that pass for the topmost spiritual path are all merely yoga processes that strive for realization of the Paramatma feature. We cannot expect that in the end, all of them will ultimately lead us to the topmost path. So it is not clear, it is not sure that if one follows this process of yoga, he will achieve Prema Bhakti. It is not sure, there is no certainty. Because in the process of meditation, there are numerous obstacles before one finally realizes the absolute truth. how much can meditation help one? There are so many obstacles. You see, Saubhari Rishi, he was also a yogi. He was inside the Yamuna and he was meditating. He was also closing his eyes and he was meditating in this way. He was also a yogi. And one day what happened? Garuda, he would always come, take these fish out of the water and he would eat them. So when Garuda would eat these fish, what would he do? He would deliver these fish. Not that he would eat them, he would deliver them and send them back to Vaikuntha. But then some fish, they went and complained to Saubhari Rishi. Now Garuda every day is coming and eating this fish. And he's like killing all of us. So then Saubhari Rishi, he cursed Garuda. He said, if you come next time here, then your head will fall from your body. He said. No, see, he was a yogi, so he became a little proud. He thought, I have so much power, I can even curse Garuda, who's an eternal associate of Bhagavan. So then Garuda, you see how humble he is. He could have easily rejected that curse. He could have even cursed him back. But Garuda said, all right, Prabhu, you are a yogi, great yogi, you have cursed me, I will not come. And he left. And then what happened? Saubhari Rishi, he saw two fish mating. No, he saw two, because fish are very lusty creatures. No, they're very lusty. So he saw two fish mating, and then he also had this desire to enjoy. And you see, he had performed austerities for so many thousands of years. But because of this offense to Garuda, then he lost all his austerities, all his penances. And what happened? There was one king called Mandata. He went to this Raja Mandata and he told him, I want to marry one of your daughters. He had 50 daughters. So then he was thinking, how can I marry my daughter to this person? Because he'd been staying in the water for thousands of years, so his skin had become very saggy. Saggy? That's what he said. His skin had become very wet and saggy. You can imagine if a person is staying in the water and he comes out, how horrible he'll be looking. So then he said, all right, you can, if my daughter wishes to marry you, then you can marry her. So then what did he do? By his yogic power, by his yogic shakti, by his bal, he transformed himself into a very beautiful young man. He transformed himself into Vinod. He became like Vinod. So then he became very muscular and he came like this. And then what happened? He came before the 50 daughters. And then the 50 daughters, they said, we all want to marry him. No, they said, we all want to marry him. And then what did he do? He expanded himself into 50 forms. And then what happened? He enjoyed with each and every one of them. Thousands of years he enjoyed. And then one day, he asked one of his wives, what is the time now? And then one of the wives said, oh, it is Sandhya. Means the sun has set. So then he thought, the sun has set. Then he realized, oh, the sun has set on my own life. He said, means my own time is now passing away. Means I am going to die very soon. The sun has set means what? Darkness is coming. Means now darkness is going to come in my own life. Now I might die very soon. Then he realized, what have I done? I wasted my life in all this enjoyment. Then he gave everything up and he again started his austerities. He went and he asked forgiveness from Garuda and he started again. And as for those fish who complained to him about Garuda, then what happened? And Kaliya came. Kaliya came and he ate the entire community of fish. This way yogis also are not so protected. So many yogis, in fact, they even fell from their yoga. Like we see in Vishwamitra Rishi, he was also a great yogi. And then Indra, what would he do? He would send all these heavenly apsaras. And these heavenly apsaras would come and they start dancing. They start they have many bangles and they start doing this, They start making sounds from their bangles, And then, they have many things, They start they are very fragrant, very aromatic. So that fragrance is entering one's nose. How can one control oneself then? And you see Vishwamitra himself, great Rishi, and he fell in love with a Gandharva. So there's so many such histories in the Puranas if you read. Where all these Gandharvas, they can even bring great kings to their knees. Like there was one king called Pururava. So Pururava, once he went to the forest hunting, there he saw Urvashi. So Urvashi, who is she? She is like one of Indra's chief dancers. Very beautiful lady, Urvashi. So Pururava, he saw Urvashi, then he fell completely in love with her. And he said, oh, you marry me, marry me. And Urvashi said, all right, I'll marry you. But on one condition, I should never see you naked. You should never come naked in front of me. So then he said, all right. So then, anyhow, they were enjoying each other for many, many years. So then one day what happened, Indra, he saw in heaven, there is Urvashi, he thought. Urvashi is not here. Then he told his assistants, you go and bring Urvashi back here. So then they went bringing Urvashi back, but the king, he had completely captured her. So Urvashi, she had 2 lambs, means little sheep. So she liked them very much. She was always looking after them, keeping them, caressing them, kissing them. 2 lambs, 2 little sheep. So then one day these assistants of Indra, what did they do in the middle of the night? They stole these lambs away from her room and they started running away. Then Urvashi, she walked to her, hey, wake up, wake up. Nonsense. She started chastising him so much, saying, what kind of man are you? They're stealing my lambs away and you cannot even bring them back. So then that time Pururava was naked. So then he started running behind these lambs and he brought them back to Urvashi. So he said, see, I brought them back. And Urvashi said, now I have seen you naked. Now I have to give you. And then she left him. And then Pururava was weeping, no, Urvashi, come back, come back, come back. And so you see, even great kings, they also become completely bewildered. By the beauty of such observers. Kings, yogis, everyone. Because unless one achieves that higher taste, then how can one give up this lower taste? Therefore, Haridas Thakur, you see, this lady, this prostitute came to see Haridas Thakur. She was so beautiful. She was even half naked. And she was showing many different poses to Haridas Thakur. But still Haridas Thakur was completely undisturbed. No transformation whatsoever. He just kept chanting his notes. Just chanting Harinam loudly within his mind. And you see, she became his disciple then. It said even Mahamaya herself came to her, disturb Haridas Thakur. And then Haridas Thakur not even disturbed by her. And ultimately he gave her the Krishna mantra, the Gopal mantra. He initiated her with the Gopal mantra. This is a pure devotee, completely undisturbed. Once we see Pradyumna Brahmachari, he came to meet Mahaprabhu. And he said, I want to listen to Harikatha. Mahaprabhu said, whatever Harikatha I have listened from Raya Ramananda. You go to Raya Ramananda, he said. So then Pradyumna Brahmachari, he went to meet Raya Ramananda. And there he asked one of his sevaks, can I meet him? Then he said, no. Now he is decorating some girls who are going to dance in front of Jagannath. These Devdasis, they're very beautiful women, these Devdasis. It is said no one could even see their faces. Their beauty is indescribable. It's such beauty they possessed. So Raya Ramananda, what would he do? He would personally clothe these ladies. He would teach them many different postures, and how to dance in front of Jagannath. And then Pradyumna Brahmachari, he was Brahmachari. He was thinking, what is this? Because he is thinking you're not even supposed to look at the face of any woman. But here he is telling me he's dressing ladies. He is teaching them how to dance. He's holding their hands. He's saying you dance like this in front of Jagannath. So then Pradyumna is thinking, what does Mahaprabhu said? So then he had some doubt in his mind, and then he left. So then Mahaprabhu, he asked him, did you go listen to Harikatha from Raya Ramananda? And he remained silent. He didn't say anything. And Mahaprabhu said, you see, me, in spite of being a sannyasi, if I see even a wooden form of a woman, means if I see a form of a woman made out of wood, even I'll experience some transformation. But for Raya Ramananda, you see a tree and a woman, there's no difference whatsoever. For him, everything is one. So don't have any doubt. Mahaprabhu himself, king of all sannyasis, he told Pradyumna Brahmachari that don't have this doubt in your heart. For him, there's no difference between a woman and a stone. It's the same. So then when Pradyumna Brahmachari went to meet this Raya Ramananda, then Raya Ramananda was waiting for him outside. Then Raya Ramananda fell at his feet and he said, oh, please forgive me. I heard you came to speak to me, but I was busy. And then Raya Ramananda, all that katha he spoke to Mahaprabhu, he spoke. Like we see, even when Sukadeva Goswami was leaving the forest, was leaving home, and when he was entering inside the forest, and Vyasadeva also was following him. And then there were some ladies, they were bathing in the pond, very beautiful young ladies. But when Sukadeva Goswami walked past them, these ladies didn't even bother to cover themselves. They continued playing naked inside the water. But when Vyasadeva came, then immediately they covered themselves with clothes and they offered pranams. And they said, oh, please forgive us for being here. and like in this unfortunate condition. So then Vyasadeva, he told these women, you women are like my great-granddaughters, not even granddaughters, great-granddaughters. But still, upon seeing me, you became shy. But upon seeing my son Sukadeva Goswami, who is your same age, you didn't become shy. How is this? So then these ladies said, for Sukadeva Goswami, there's no difference between us and anything else. Everything is the same. But for you, there is this sense of discrimination. You're thinking he is a boy, she's a woman, he's a man. But for Sukadeva Goswami, there's nothing like that. So therefore we see, like, unless one is established in that higher reality, one cannot give up these lower things. At any time, one can be charmed by the beauty of this material world. So here it is said that even the yogic process cannot give one ultimate perfection, as pure bhakti does. When after practicing either yoga or meditation for some time, one imagines I am Brahman, still there is the maximum possibility of falling into the trap of impersonal spiritual jnana. In this process, realization of the eternal form of Bhagavan and his transcendental qualities is not available. The form that is imagined at the time of upasana means worship. It is, whether it be the gigantic form of the Lord or the form of Paramatma situated within the heart, is not eternal. You see here, even the form of Paramatma that they are imagining is not eternal. That is also a concocted form. These are only speculating on Paramatma. And this is only speculation. They sometimes meditate on the universal form of Krishna. It's Virat Rup. Even this is speculation. No. So this process is called Paramatma Darshan, realization of the Super Soul. Although this process is superior to the cultivation of impersonal jnana, it is not perfect and all-pleasing. Ashtanga Yoga, Hatha Yoga, Karma Yoga and all other yogic practices are included within this process. Although Raja or Adhyatmic Yoga follows this process to a certain extent, in most cases it is included within the process of dhyana. The philosophical conclusion is that realization of the Super Soul cannot be called Shuddha Bhakti. So you see, even if they realize Paramatma in their hearts, it is not Shuddha Bhakti. Because how can they serve Paramatma? Where is the question of serving him? No. Because Shuddha Bhakti means you're serving Bhagavan. You're giving him a glass of water, you're giving him something to eat, you're clothing him, you're massaging him. But where is the question of massaging Paramatma? Where is the question of giving water to Paramatma? Does he ever become thirsty? Does he ever become hungry? So therefore this is also not Shuddha Bhakti. This is only realizing one aspect of his opulence, Vaibhav. So in this regard, it is said in Bhakti Sandarbha that after the creation of this universe, the Supreme Lord enters it as the controller of material nature, and he is situated as the all-pervading Paramatma. So you see here, even Paramatma, he only appears when the world is created. And then this is the only purpose for which he appears, for the creation of the material world. In one sense, it is said even Mahavishnu, even his form is not permanent, they say. Because even he is tinged by this desire for creation. So even his form is not completely pure, it is said. Because even within him there is a desire to create this material world. So all these things are explained in Brahma Samhita. If you read that book there, then you can understand. So therefore this aspect of the absolute truth is naturally inferior to the supreme and eternal Bhagavan aspect. Absolute truth is only realized through the process of bhakti. The complete absolute truth, endowed with all transcendental potencies, is called Bhagavan. After the creation of this universe, Bhagavan enters into this universe as Paramatma. And he is situated as the super soul of the complete universe as Kshirodakshayi Vishnu. He is situated as the super soul in the hearts of all living entities in this way. So as Garbhodakshayi Vishnu, he is like the super soul of the entire universe. And as Paramatma, he is the super soul in the hearts of all living entities. Therefore, Bhagavan, he appears as the impersonal Brahman in direct distinction from the manifested material worlds. Hence, Bhagavan is the original aspect of God and the supreme absolute truth. His Sarup is completely transcendental. All spiritual potencies reside in him. His potencies are inconceivable and beyond any reasoning. He cannot be fathomed by any process fabricated by the knowledge of the infinitesimal living entity, the Jiva. By the influence of his inconceivable potency, the entire universe and all the living entities have manifested. Jivas have come from the Tathastha Shakti, and only by following the path of bhajan, bhakti, they can become perfect. And what is the best form of bhajan in Kali Yuga? It is Naam Bhajan, chanting of his holy names. The process of Gyan and Yoga are incapable of approaching Bhagavan. When approached through the cultivation of impersonal knowledge, he appears as formless. And when seen through the yoga process, he is seen as Paramatma. But Bhakti is supremely pure. It is very painful for Bhakti Devi, the personification of Bhakti, to see the Supreme Personality in his lesser manifestation. If she sees this anywhere, she cannot tolerate it. So here even Bhakti Devi herself, if she sees that any devotee is drawn to this Paramatma form or this Brahman effulgence, then she feels so much pain. She's thinking, why is my devotee, why is this person drawn to this aspect? Why is he not drawn to the sweetness of Krishna? To his wonderful qualities, to his transcendental form, names. Why is he drawn to these lesser manifestations? Bhakti Devi feels so much pain in her heart. So we should not give pain to Bhagavan by thinking of him as either as Paramatma or as this Brahman effulgence. Why? Because Bhagavan wants us to love him. He wants this love. He's greedy to taste this love. But if we deny his existence, then how can he be pleased? Like if you say my father does not exist, then will the father be happy? Like if you tell someone, now my father, he is nothing, then what will the father think? He feels so much pain in his heart. So, Bhagavan is supreme father. So the duty to understand. So these are all very philosophical considerations. Therefore this book is called Bhakti-tattva-viveka. It sheds light on Bhakti-tattva. Only by knowing this tattva you can understand what Bhakti Ras is. Or else then you won't have any understanding. Then you'll be like the Sahajiyas. The Sahajiyas, they think everything is very cheap. Everything is easily had. But no, you have to go through this process. So we'll stop here. Pray at the Lotus feet of Bhaktivinoda Thakur that he can inspire all these realizations within us. Vanchaka Tathapishya Vasamdeja Ditanam Paranibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Thakur Bhaktivedanta ki jai, Shri Gurudev Param Gurudev Prabhupada Rupankari Prabhupada ki Bhakti-tattva-viveka ki jai, Antkoti Vaishnava ki jai. Thai Gok